What's up, white people? So we're in GameMaker Studio 2 and we want to move furniture about because, quite frankly, where the desk is positioned at the minute isn't quite feng shui. So obviously we could drag it over with the mouse, but that's going to hurt our wrist because it's quite a heavy table. So what we want to do is get it to move in code. Every time we click the mouse, we've got a sexy little cursor animation to indicate where we're going to. Clickety-click, this is all very magic, but this isn't doing nothing. So we're going to change that by jumping over into the code. So jumping into the code now, and we're in the tables create event. So quickly going to run through what we've got here. We've only got basically one variable here that does all the work, but to start off we have the image speed set to 0, which is, as it says here, is used to stop the animation, and I've set the image index to also equal 0. Now what that's going to do is set to the first frame of the animation. Now with the table I've only got 2 frames of animation, just as an illustration that something's happening. I didn't bother with making the table walk because that would just be stupid, so I've just got a nice simple light that turns on and off. So the first frame is the light off, or rather image index 0 is the light off, and image index 1 would be the light on. So that's all these 2 little lines do, just stop the animation from going on and off and flickering I should say. Now, the only variable we use, and it does all of the lifting, and is all the useful bits that we need, is this one here, new X position. So what this is going to do is this is going to give us the X position which the table, I should say, is going to travel to. So we declare it, instead of putting something like 0 in or some made up number, we're just going to start with the table's X position. And with that result, we're going to use this function called round. Now what that does is it takes whatever number you've got in here and it either rounds up or rounds down, depending on what the number is. So to see how this variable is going to be used, we're going to jump into the global left pressed event. Now as you can see, instead of the X position of the table object, we're now going to be collecting the mouse's X position. So in other words, every time we click the left mouse button, we're going to take the we're going to take the cursor's X coordinates, and we're going to be storing that in our variable. And once again, we're going to round the result either up or down, and it's going to give us a nice round number, as it says here. So over to the table step event now, which is where we'll do all our checks to get the table moving about and doing all of its little magical things. So first off, the bulk of everything takes place after this little check is carried out. Now this check is seeing if our X position does not equal the new X position. So in other words, if we've clicked the mouse and this number's changed and it's not equal where we already are, then we need to move. So we'll jump into the code, imagine that we have clicked it either left or right and that number's updated. Well, the image index is going to change to 1. We're not going to cycle because, as we stated earlier, the image speed is set to 0, so it's not going to animate. It's just going to give us the second frame, which in this case is the light on. And then the movement section, we're going to need to decide whether we need to move left or we need to move right. So as this little handy little text here says, if we're on the left of the mouse, we want to move right. So to do that check, we're going to say if our X position is less than, and that's what this little bracket here means, if our X position is less than the new X position, then we're going to keep adding 1 to our X position. And it's going to just keep doing that until we're equalized out. Or in some quirk, if it overshot it. It doesn't, not in this, it's not going to do it, but it would do that anyway. Also, if we're on the right of the mouse, we want to move left. Well, that's just the opposite of this. So if our X position is greater than the new X position, so in other words, if our X number is bigger than the number that's stored in this little variable, then we're going to move left by minusing 1 from our X position. Right, so this check here, if our X does not equal, so this gets it to move. So this little condition here is if our X position, or rather I should say, if our X position is equal to the X position stored in the variable. If you've never seen else, this is like it ties to this check. So in other words, if this is true, do this stuff, else if it's not true, do something else. This could also say if. This could be if X equals new position, but it's just what we use. If you've never seen it before, it looks funny, but this is how it's used. This is the check, and this is, I suppose, it's all else really, like in every other condition. I suppose that's handy in that respect. So in this case, it's what it's saying here, this else statement, is if our X is equal to the new X position, because you can only be equal to the X position or not. There are cases where, I know I'm starting to waffle a little bit here, but there are cases where, you know, you might not have necessarily a binary check of 1 or 0. You might be getting several numbers back, or, you know, several different inputs of data. Right, so anyway, little squiggly rant over, but else, if our X position is equal to the X position stored in the variable to move our table, then we want to change our image index back to 0, which is just going to change our little animation back to off. Right, so our code's implemented now. Let's see if it's going to work. Clickety click, nice animation, light comes on, table moves, as if by magic. Our backs are saved. We're now feng shui, and it'll move to basically wherever we want it to move. A little light comes on to show you something's happening, even though you can already see it's moving. Could be the background moving. But yeah, we've got a little animation there, and everything's working fine. And finish with it there, because that looks beautiful. And that's it basically. Nice easy tutorial, done.